2 days until Election Day. It's almost here. Millions of Americans already cast their ballots in record-breaking early voting. Millions more to go on Tuesday. One of the most contentious local races to be decided is for Rock Island County State's Attorney. It pits Democratic incumbent Dora Villarreal against Republican challenger Kathleen Bailey. Kathleen Bailey got her bachelor's degree in business from the University of Iowa, then later went back to Iowa for her law degree. She's been a prosecutor as an assistant state's attorney in Rock Island County and is currently in private practice specializing in family law. Now, Kathleen Bailey's been very aggressive and critical of Dora Villarreal during the campaign. I spoke with her about it earlier this week. You've been very critical of your opponent during this campaign, pointing specifically to the settlement of the deadly accident outside the Rock Island County Courthouse 2 years ago. The Quad City Times dug up those records and found that settlement was worth $1.8 million. What would you have done differently? Would you have settled this case?
Actually, the case law in Illinois is pretty favorable to the tree owners. I don't know enough about the facts of the case. It's settled. That's fine. I'm happy for the victims. My objection to the settlement was that it was sealed, and I think when you're spending tax dollars, there's no legal authority to seal the settlement. In fact, sealed settlements are disfavored at the courthouse at all. Once you hit that courthouse door, it should be an open record. There's no statutory authority either for her to seal the settlement. For instance, the auditor by statute, has an obligation to file quarterly reports listing all expenditures. So I don't know how she is able to fulfill her statutory duties when a settlement is sealed. So it wasn't the settlement I was critical of, it was the manner in which it was handled. I think the state's attorney should comply with the law and let taxpayers know where their dollars are being spent.
Well, it certainly was available during a public records request. Now, you also criticized the release of convicted murderer Nathaniel Onsrud after the Innocence Project found problems with the way prosecutors handled that case. Do you deny the validity of the Innocence Project's work? What else could be done in the Onsrud case after that new information came to light?
Well, that's exactly the question. What is the new information? Their motion doesn't say what the new information is, and the interim state's attorney vacated the sentence, and we still don't know. I mean, Mr. Needleman, can you tell me what the new information is? Because it's not been told to the public, and I think the public has a right to know. She has a duty, an ethical responsibility, if there is new information, to disclose that, and there haven't been any subsequent filings on this case. When the last time I checked the docket, she hasn't told us what the new information is. So why would you vacate a sentence and then not tell the public what the new information is? I don't think that's being critical. I think that's asking a legitimate question.
Wasn't my understanding, though, from the Innocence Project that the defense wasn't provided discoverable material?
That is not true, and I thought Mr. Doak made that crystal clear at his press conference. Margaret disclosed, she did at the initial disclosure and I think 8 supplemental disclosures. She disclosed over 500 pages of documents. I think what the office failed to understand was that the records had been digitized, and so that's why the file was so thin when they went to look at it. Had they checked the docket, they would have realized that disclosures had been made. And so you tell me, what's the new evidence? I haven't heard what it is, or what's the evidence that wasn't disclosed? I haven't seen it in the news.
Can you guarantee prosecutors under your watch won't make mistakes?
Well, that isn't just the prosecutors on my watch. That would be a decision. This man confessed, he pled guilty, he was sentenced to 60 years in prison. She made the decision to vacate that sentence. And I don't know that Margaret Osborne made any mistakes in disclosure. Again, what was the undisclosed evidence? And they aren't telling us that.
How does let's just switch topics now. How does the pandemic change the way the prosecutor's office needs to be run?
Well, the pandemic has changed the way everything has to be done. I think it's a lot harder for the police to interview suspects. It's going to be a lot harder to select jurors unless they're wearing face shields instead of masks. Everybody has to be vigilant about contact with one another and staying as healthy as they can. This pandemic impacts all of us, as I'm sure it's impacted your business.
Absolutely. So let's try your last minute pitch here. How different would the state's attorney's office be if you're elected? Why should voters give you the job?
Thank you. I am going to protect families, promote fairness, and practice accountability. I will establish a veterans court. I will set case management standards so cases don't drag on and on and on. I will have an online portal so people having contact with the office can comment on their experience with the office, whether they've been a complainant, a victim, a juror, a witness, whatever. I think we need to have feedback from citizens as to how we're doing our job, and I'd like to make some changes. I would not do everything by grand jury, I tell you that. What's one of the biggest changes you would make then? I think the case management standards would be the biggest changes. I mean, cases, you know, Judge O'Shea said about a year ago when he went to review dockets, he was shocked at how long cases were dragging on. And I think in that David case, there were 22 motions by the defense to continue and not one objection by the state. I mean, that's not fair to those victims. That's not fair to those two little kids that came forward and talked about the worst thing that ever happened to them. My interview with Kathleen Bailey. Coming up, Dora Villarreal defends herself, what she says about her challenger's claims. For the record.